It is easy to complain and grumble about the current stay-at-home situation we face. It's always fashionable to focus on bad news. In fact, that's what most of the news does. It emphasizes pain and suffering, and that adds even more to our anxiety. Now, there's not much to like about being restricted. We're not used to it. But I want to remind you that there is much good that has already happened and will continue to come out of this present time. Consider the blessings that have come because you are quarantined. And you've had to consider how to use the time at hand. There's so much we miss and wish was different, and yet there are blessings that come only as the result of having to slow down. We can embrace a totally different take on this pandemic if faith, rather than fear, is our focus. The letter of 1 Peter in the New Testament was written when Jerusalem was being destroyed. Christians were being persecuted, even killed, because of faith. The entire world was locked in death's darkness, and many hid behind locked doors. Listen to what Peter says in that first letter, in chapter 1, when he asks faithful people to focus on how Jesus' resurrection changes daily living. Peter believed that such trials test the genuineness of faith. That's what he said. Trials test the genuineness of faith. Now, he didn't suggest that God is behind bad stuff, or that God does things just to mess with us, to see how we'll react, but rather that such broken moments are opportunities for faith to be tested. He says those tests are a good thing. Now, our first impulse is to disagree. Shouldn't God keep us from moments we don't like? And yet, no matter what, every life faces difficulty, pain, and eventually death. Too often for us, faith is merely a concept. But when we face the tests of a broken world, we have no choice but to actually utilize the precious gift we call faith. We have to pull it off the shelf. We have to dust it off. We have to give it a whirl. We have to use it. Peter goes on to suggest that when faith is tested, we have even more reason to praise God, because faith opens us up to the powerful presence of a loving God who has been with us all along. When we actually surrender our control to God, and especially our fears, our frustration, our perspective changes as we let go. That's what faith is, letting go. It isn't that faith grows, but that we grow into faith. Now, Peter uses the image of gold to talk about this. He reminds us gold doesn't show up as a bright, clean, shiny, perfect ring in a jewelry store. It begins by being trapped deep in the darkness of the earth, compressed with all sorts of impurities and worthless stuff. To be set free, it has to be found and pulled out, and then heated, tested, so that all of the impurities are boiled away, and only the valuable nugget that we call gold remains. And isn't that what Jesus has done for us? Didn't he bury himself with all of our impurities, all of our worthless stuff in the darkness of a tomb, deep in the earth, only then to emerge, cleansed, beautiful, alive, in the glory of that first Easter? So why not allow this present discomfort and inconvenience remind you of the incredible suffering of Jesus, which led to the powerful gift that we call faith, a gift that changes how we can live in every moment of life. Rejoice that we have been forced to slow down, to re-examine priorities. What do we really need to eat? What do we really need to live? How should we spend each hour? Realize what too long we've taken for granted. And by faith, learn from this testing the blessing that faith is. Life is never easy. But when faith is its power, everything has a new glow. This is just the beginning of the goodness that even this present inconvenience will bring.